Hi, welcome to the Secret Art of Business. And my guest today is Wendy Rivera. I am so excited to have you today because I know you from other things, and I know that you are doing some pretty fun things. You have a very fun business, which is Muttigans, which is a pet supply store in Emerald Isle, if I'm hoping I have all that correctly. And
Mhm.
essentially, it is a place where humans can hang out with their pets, their dogs, I'm assuming mostly, and get coffee and treats for both themselves and for their animals. So, with that introduction, I will have you expand on what you're doing down in Emerald Isle, North Carolina.
Well, good morning, Catherine. I'm excited to be here. And so, my elevator pitch for our
Okay.
business is we are pet supply stores with integrated pet friendly coffee shops. And actually, Emerald Isle is our flagship, but I do have two other locations as
Ooh,
well.
do
One is located in Swansboro, North Carolina, and the other one is in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So they're all within about 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes of each other. And yes, it's really fun. So when people ask me what I do, I get to make coffee and play with dogs all day. I have some associates that do these really amazing, life-changing world peace things. And I'm like, look, I'm just giving belly rubs here, and serving espressos. I don't know, but I think we make a difference in our own way.
right now, I think you are probably making a lot of people jealous, to be perfectly honest, because I think if they could just have coffee and pet bellies on their these little puppies, I think they would be more than happy because it's really really simple. Life can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be.
Exactly, exactly. And it's really fun. I always tell people, what I do is not rocket science. I mean, it's two very distinct things. It's a coffee shop, which has its own specialties. And of course, we're a pet supply store, which is a whole other realm of knowledge. But I just took two things that made sense to me and that literally are part of my daily morning routine. I mean, one of the very first things I do in the morning, I serve my coffee and I either walk my dogs or they're sitting next to me or I let them outside um, every day almost of my adult life. So I just put two things that are commonly found together, but people wouldn't think to put them together.
I
And I did that.
I think it's brilliant, quite honestly. I mean, it's like I said, it's combining things that are just very much a part of people's lives and they get to enjoy them together. So that's so
Correct.
incredibly fun. Now, do when they in your store, and I apologize that I don't know this because we have talked about your business before, but is there
Oh, you're
like an
fine.
area for the dogs to play and stuff like that too? Or they pretty much just welcome into the shop and things like that?
So right now they're just welcome into the shop. Our locations, I don't really have outdoor green space, mostly because one is in a downtown
Hmm.
area,
Hmm.
so it's in a historical, so it doesn't have a backyard. That building also houses our grooming salon. The other is just up from a beach strand. Emerald Isle
Hmm.
doesn't really have any businesses on the beach strand. This is like a block up. So again, real estate there is at a prime. So and we have a large building and we have a large porch, but no green space there, unfortunately. And then the third one is actually inside of a mall
Oh,
in
wow.
Jacksonville. Yeah, exactly. It's right by Camp Lejeune, so we get to visit with all the Marines mostly. So we don't have that green space, but they are welcome inside. And we do one of our favorite things that we do are we call them breed meetups. So
Oh,
this coming Saturday, yeah, so this Saturday, as a matter of fact, is one of my favorite ones. It's for like pit bulls and pit mixes because they're so demonized right now, and actually most of them are just big babies. So, and we call it a pity party.
oh,
So we talked about
cute.
creativity, and that was yeah, it was more like I like to do wordplay. So I get to, I mean, I venture to say, let me see, we've had anywhere from on the breed meetups, we can have maybe five or six to we've had up to 40 dogs come in with their owners
Wow.
at a time.
Oh, that has
So
got to be spectacular.
it's fun. And the big dogs never give us a problem ever. Like we
Oh,
just never had a problem. It's when we get the little ones in.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they can get a little nippy and possessive of their humans for sure.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
so so
absolutely.
cool. I just love that. All right, so you have not been the owner of Muttigans since birth. So let's go back to when you were a kid. And what did you do as a kid for fun and creativity and curiosity?
So I am the youngest of three children, by far the youngest. My siblings were 13 and 16 years older than me, so I was kind of a surprise baby. And
Yeah,
I think by the time I was born, my parents were just like, "Wow, we just don't even know what we're going to do anymore."
yeah.
I think they were just tired. So I learned how to entertain my. Basically, I was an only child for all
Mhm,
practical
mhm.
purposes. So one of the things that happens when you have that is I learned how to entertain myself. I learned how to keep busy. And one of the best things that my parents ever did for me, my mom particularly, is she read to me. And I'm an avid reader. What that did was open literally the whole world to me, not only this world, but fantasy worlds as well. So I've always been an avid reader, although now I basically read nonfiction. I read a lot of business books. And I was also the kid, since I didn't have anybody to play with. So, by the way, don't ever play a board game with me because I suck at it because I'm extremely competitive. My kids stopped playing Monopoly with me years ago, and I said, "Why don't you want to play?" And they're like, "Because you pulled the, oh, fine, you don't want to sell that to me. That's okay. I just spent 36 hours in labor with you, but it's okay. You don't have to sell me that." So they won't play with me anymore. I don't know, but
That's what I don't
um,
understand why.
so I wasn't your typical, I think much to my mother's chagrin, I wasn't the typical little for lack of a better way to say it, frou-frou girl,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I was kind of a tomboy. I love to play, ride bicycle. I didn't play with dolls. Actually, my mom said I would line my dolls up and tell them, you're stupid, you don't talk to me, you're stupid. What I did though, I used to spend anytime she took me to the store, it wasn't toys that I was interested in, it was paper and crayons and scissors and coloring books and glue sticks and glitter and all that kind of thing. I used to love to create things. I
Yeah.
still to this day, like one of my mainstays here on my desk is it's a can of my Prismacolor
Yep.
pencils. I
Yep.
mean, I have a coloring book that I keep here. So even as an adult, I love the visual arts like that. And I was always creating something. So I did a lot of that for fun. I read, I created, I'd like to write.
I was going to
I
ask
made
if
my
you
own
wrote
little.
because if you're hearing a lot of stories, I was wondering if you ever try to tackle, writing your own story or just, journaling of some kind.
I do journal pretty much on a daily basis. I used to write poetry a lot. I think that got me through a lot of my teenage angst years of my poetry.
Nice.
I read them back now sometimes, and I'm like, wow, I was really a mess back then, But at 15, what do you know? And I have written some short stories, and it is on my bucket list to kind of, write a book. It just seems like such a daunting task, but it is on my bucket list, and I am going to get it done.
Very, very cool. So you didn't, just suddenly become the owner of Muttigans, So, like I said, so how did you get from that child that is uh just essentially just coloring and create a business? How did you get from there to here?
Well, I'm actually a serial entrepreneur, a lifelong entrepreneur. My first, because on top of being creative and loving to write and color and all this kind of thing, I just see everything from a business perspective. I actually love to sell, and I love to make money. So my very first entrepreneurial venture, I was 5 years old. As I said before, my brother is 13 years older than me. So when he was 18 years old, he had a girlfriend and he had a job, but I guess the job didn't pay enough to take care of his girlfriend's needs. So he knew if he went to our dad, to ask for money, not only would he not get the money, he'd get a whole lecture, right? But he had a 5-year-old sister that knew how to save money, and he would borrow $20, but he knew that I knew how to count very well. So the following week, he would have to give me 25. So that was my first. And I think that in my mind, that I looked at him like he has a job, he doesn't have money. I'm making money off of him. I think I have the better deal.
That's actually really
So,
smart.
and then I combined the two. I would, for example, create puppet shows. I'd create the whole box with the backgrounds, and I'd sew felt puppets, and I'd put the eyes on them, and I'd create I'd write the play out to show to my family, of course. And this is like the age of, like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old. But I wouldn't give them the tickets. I mean, I sold the tickets, 75 cents each. I still have some. I would type them out really, or write them really neat. 75 cents per ticket. Yes, ma'am. Nothing for free. So my work was And of course, my family supported that. My dad, when he passed away, I found a, it was a page from a coloring book that I had done for him. And at that time, I had just discovered the things that makes the circles. I forget what they call them
Oh,
now. We don't use
compass.
them, but compass. Yes, it makes perfect circles.
Mhm.
Again, I was about 6 years old, and I made a frame with these perfect circles, so I thought it was neat. And it was a Mickey Mouse picture in it. And at the very bottom, you see 75 cents. And my dad kept that until the day he passed away. So, yeah,
The true
yeah,
entrepreneur that pretty much looks at everything and asks, "How can I monetize this?"
absolutely. I, I've always, every so often, I fantasize about I'm just going to give everything up and just run away to some kind of island and just sit there like under a palm tree and just get sun, right? And then I will tell myself, who am I kidding? Because I will look up at that coconut tree and go, I bet you if I box six of those coconuts per box, and if I get the right shipping company, I can sell these or sell the husk. I will find a way to monetize whatever it is I'm doing. So
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's funny.
I've always been that way.
So
Mhm.
how was Muttigans born then?
So I've always been a dog owner. I mean, I guess the first dog that I had, I was about 10 years old. My parents allowed me to have a dog, and I've had a dog pretty much ever since, with the exception of just a few years. And I moved to Eastern North Carolina, to Emerald Isle to be specific. I had a Cane Corso. Her name was Maya. And although I've loved all my dogs and I love my dogs now, she was my heart dog.
Oh,
There was just something very, very special about her. So we moved here, and I had to travel about 30 minutes away to get her food in Morehead City. And I remember thinking that I don't like driving that far to have to go get her food. Plus, I love showing her off because she was such an amazing dog. So I looked at the scope of what was around, and there were no pet supply stores, nothing really in the area. There was one very small pet boutique, but they really didn't specialize in the basics. They had more, it was truly a boutique. So they had a lot of the clothing and like leather collars and all the fancy stuff, but none of the basics. Like my dog did not need a skirt, a frou-frou outfit. She needed good
or another
breathing.
collar or another leash or
Exactly. She didn't need the rhinestones or not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to make sure that she ate the healthy food that she was accustomed to. So yeah, so I said, well, I guess it's much easier for me to open up a whole store and work 60 hours a week than to drive 30 minutes away once a month to get her food.
perfect sense.
And I exactly. Well, I knew that if I had that problem, I knew there'd be others in the area that had the same challenge. So actually, we started as just a pet boutique in March of 2016. And at the time, I knew very little about the industry other than what I've, fed my dog and what I knew from being a dog owner. But I very quickly learned something that really fascinates me, especially the nutritional part of it, because dogs are just like humans, they are what they eat. Maya did pass away of cancer, so that really heightens my experience with what she was, because we don't know what caused it,
Hmm.
but it could be at some point some pesticides that she was exposed to, because I
Yeah.
used to live out on the farm. So that year in 2016, we had a lot of people ask us, is there anywhere we can go and sit with our dogs and have something to eat? Because we get a lot of influx of tourists during the summer. And of course, a lot of the restaurants have outdoor seating areas where the dogs are welcome, but nothing indoors. And the weather, even though we're at the beach, is not always perfect to be sitting outside. So I looked into different ideas, talked different things around. It was a number of things that fell into place, but I realized that here in North Carolina, we could operate a coffee shop that could be pet friendly. We could allow the dogs inside. And for me, coffee has always been it was the first adult beverage
Mm,
that I
yes.
imbibed. I was probably 6 years old. My mother had her little coffee clutch with the, ladies back then, of course, back in those days, children were seen and not heard. Or I would go off to my room when she got together with the other ladies. And I remember I was probably about 6 or 8 years old when she invited me to have my first cup of coffee. And it was probably, 2 ounces of coffee and 10 ounces of milk,
Yeah.
which was
That's a big
fine. But I remember
deal.
thinking, oh my God, I was so grown. I had coffee. So, yeah, so then we moved to a bigger location, it was right across the street from where we were. we added the coffee shop. And I will say that when I added the coffee shop, I did not know the difference between a cappuccino and a latte. But I hired somebody that did, and I knew I could learn. So we did that, and we rebranded, and yeah, that's how Muttigans was born.
I love it because
So, and
that
it,
is exactly everything I'm talking about because, it's essentially you had an idea and you kept
mhm,
learning, you kept growing, you kept, digging in, you were curious, and you have created just a wonderful business that is definitely, I could feel it in your heart when you're talking about it. You're kind of dedicated to your little dog and all the dogs out there now because you get to see all these other people come in and love on their animals too, and also deliver some grown up coffee as well. So that's
yes,
so
yes,
cool.
absolutely. And we love to do things, the creativity part, it never stops, I think. I mentioned the breed meetups before, and it's one of our most popular events.
Yes. But someone had
Let's
to
see,
think
last
about
weekend
it.
we had
So that someone had to come up with that idea.
yeah, well, and here's how it came about. So, I mean, like last week we had a Dachshund one, Great
Oh,
Dane. I mean, people really love it because they get to show off, their dogs. The way that actually came about was I was starting to think, I'm single, right? So I was on dating sites and thinking about, well, you know what? If I dated somebody, they'd have to love dogs. That's just kind of a gimme because if they don't like dogs, we just can't be together. And I started thinking about, wow, I wonder if there's a dating site for people who just love dogs, right? So then I thought, well, maybe I could create a dating site for like people who love certain breeds because it is a mindset. For example, I'm
yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with it, but like I'm not a Chihuahua dog owner. It's just not my personality. Nothing wrong with them. They're wonderful little dogs. They're very protective. I prefer like mastiffs. I have a pug who thinks she's a mastiff. I mean, so yeah. But and I like the bigger dogs, um, Rottweilers. That's
Hmm.
just kind of my personality.
Hmm.
And I know that it's a certain mindset, right? So I thought, well, what if we get people together that are like-minded like that?
It's really
And I thought, okay, well, exactly. Well, and I thought a dating site, that's way beyond my capabilities. Not that I couldn't have hired somebody to find it, but I just thought, okay, that's too much technology for
right,
me. I
right.
like
You
kind
could
of,
do it old school with a mingle.
exactly. And so I thought that's exactly it. Well, what if we get these people together in the physical space? And that's how the idea of breed meetups was born. Again, I took something that I was going through in life, and I kind of just looked at the different options that we had to do that kind of thing. And yeah, and people love our breed meetups. So.
That is so freaking fun.
And the exciting thing is when I do see people exchange phone numbers amongst each other, that's when I feel like I've had a truly successful breed meetup when I think maybe they've made a new
That
friend.
would be so
So
freaking satisfying. I have to tell you.
it is.
And you touched upon that you still, kind of keep sparks flying with that right side of your brain with your coloring and your drawing and your things like that. And obviously that has kept your curiosity and your creativity alive with your business too, because I know that with that, I mean, that's, like I said, a great idea. And you are always still innovating, today, which is, different products and things like that. I have to ask, what is the status of your roadkill?
So we're still working on it. We're still working on the prototype box itself. We had ordered one box and then realized that we need to have it wax lined. And
Oh,
just
yeah.
for yeah, so our first ones were just cardboard. So for your listeners, I will tell you, Carolina Roadkill boxes, it will be a subscription box. We specialize in natural body parts for the dogs and cats too. It's what we call a raw, either a body parts bar or the raw parts bar. In house, we like to call it the graveyard because you can see all the body parts in there from, duck heads complete with the eyeballs and brain to hog feet and chicken stomachs and all that kind of,
For gift
you know,
giving.
oh, it absolutely is.
And your
Absolutely.
dog will
So
love it.
they do. Well, and here's the thing with that. I mean, it literally like locks in 97% of the nutrients. And what I always tell people, it actually honors every part of the animal because these are parts of the
Absolutely.
animals. For example, duck, right? So when you go to a restaurant to eat duck, you're getting the best part of it, the
Mhm.
breast and whatever else. In the past, the other parts like the head, the feet, all that would be discarded.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, now we get them freeze dried or dehydrated and they go back into the life cycle. So to me, it honors every part of the
I
animal.
love that too. I love that too.
Yeah.
you know,
So,
take
but
those
at the same
ways.
time, it's really fun, and it's the kind of thing that people either love because they're like, "Oh my God, this is disgusting and so great," or or it just makes them really sad. I've
Like, oh
seen
my
that
God,
too.
this is
Like,
so disgusting. It's either one or the other.
but either way, it's fun. And the box that we created, the graphics on it, it's like a caution yellow with black tread marks
Yeah,
and the
yeah, yeah.
silhouettes of animals. We
It is
just love
really, really
having
fun.
fun.
It is really fun.
Yeah, so that's
I was
coming
lucky enough to
soon.
see some of the prototype stuff. And like I said, I had to give that a shout out because again, innovating to kind of increase your footprint too, because then you're not necessarily just tied to the 3 stores, but if it's a subscription,
Correct.
people can now buy this anywhere, once it's ready to go. So I think that
Correct.
is super
I
cool.
I think the most important part of, as an entrepreneur, being creative and being innovative is not worrying about, well, if it hasn't been done, it's because it wasn't important. I think that stops a lot of people, right? They have this idea and they think, well, if it was worth doing, somebody would have done it. Well, maybe not.
Right,
Maybe you were the one called to bring that idea to life.
right.
But I also believe that the universe will give multiple people an idea at the same time, right? And it
Absolutely.
depends who runs with it. Because when we first opened up, I had a lot of people tell me, "Oh my God, I had this idea, was in college to do the same thing."
Right. Well, but you
You
didn't.
know, exactly. Exactly. So again, what I do is it's not rocket science. It was putting two things that people, if when they look at their lives, are actually already doing in a sense, right? And I just put them together in a way that the general public could enjoy.
Yeah, and I think it's worth
So it's
mentioning too that, because you're talking about how, people kind of just try these things, that it isn't always, luck where it works. I mean, granted, I always see, people make their own luck by just looking at the opportunities. And I think once you do start tapping into the creative side, which you are definitely, full speed in, you kind of solve the problem and you solved it. I mean, this is essentially what it is. It's like you said, it's not rocket science. It is just problem solving like every day. And if you kind of get charged up by that, then you're going to be successful in business, really.
but it's also being willing to make mistakes,
Oh my God,
right?
yes.
One is you have to be willing to color outside the lines. And
Mhm.
my thing is what lines? Like I'll just make my own
Right,
thing, right?
right, right.
But also be willing to make mistakes. Not every idea that I've had has been, a home run. Some of them have
Hmm.
fallen flat on say. But if you're not willing to do that, then you never try anything, right?
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely, and be willing
um,
to take the time to figure it out. I mean, like I said, it's right.
exactly.
This wasn't it. This didn't resonate with people, but what will? What can I do to kind of tweak this little, change it a little? Because I feel there's something here. Because we didn't get to the moon in the first try. We had a lot.
Exactly.
We set up a few
Exactly.
animals, and we had a few mishaps, and accidents. Straight on accidents. But we eventually got there. But it wasn't. That I guess maybe going back to the whole rocket science analogy, you
Exactly.
do have to
It's
try
true.
different things and they're not all going to work, but you can get there if you just keep working at it.
It's also being careful who you surround yourself with. There are a lot of naysayers out there. When you're given a vision, that vision is given to you. It's not given to everybody else. So sometimes it's hard for people to see what you see,
Right.
regardless of how you try to explain it. So, I mean, I even had somebody tell me one time when I first went to open, well, it's the beach and it gets hot here. Do people drink coffee in the
Oh,
summertime when
please.
it's hot? Well, yeah, and that was kind of my thing. I'm like, look, I don't know about anybody else, but I could probably be in the bowels of hell and I'm going to have my coffee in the
Yeah,
morning. It's just, that's the thing,
exactly. And
right?
you can put
I don't
ice
care
in
how
it
hot it
too.
is.
I mean, it's crazy, but you can put ice in it too.
Well, exactly. So, but that person didn't see what I saw, the vision that I
Absolutely.
saw to create. So
Absolutely.
I think we have to be really careful when we have these creative ideas, who we expose them to, because it's very easy to get shot down. And if you're not strong enough in your own beliefs or have that, track record where you say, you know what, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great, we'll do something else. It's very easy for those creative ideas to just get set aside because someone else didn't see what you saw.
Yes.
So again, I believe it's really important who you surround yourself with and who you share your vision with as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, you absolutely
Yeah.
positively nailed the whole idea of this. This might be my latest crazy idea is trying to get the word out about how being creative and innovative is just as important as working hard in any entrepreneur's journey. It's the whole package, it's the whole brain that gets you to where you want to go.
And to me, triggers for creativity are everywhere. I mean, just look at spring.
Yep.
the trees don't work hard to bloom. I mean, it's there, right? So the flowers, I mean, we have fields around here. There's like one place where it's all tulips. The other one is these, or I don't know, I'm not much of a gardener, but these beautiful orange flowers. So it's just a matter of looking around, even
Right.
at nature,
Right.
and seeing what's there. Look how creative nature is.
Absolutely. And
So,
it's
and
just as
we have that same source, and
yeah, and
so it's just tapping
it's
into
just
it.
as important to do that as is to work that 40, 60 hour week, whatever it needs
Yeah,
to get it done. It's like, let me take a minute because I need some inspiration right now.
exactly, exactly. And it's a lot of fun. It's just letting your brain go, and giving yourself that space also. Finding the time, and finding, for me, it's, I ride my motorcycle, and that's when, because I have no phone, no interruptions,
Right.
I'm both the most focused and the most um at ease in my zone when I'm riding my motorcycle, right? So that's when I came up with a lot of great ideas, because
And
I don't have
for
any interruptions.
just as an example for people that don't ride motorcycles, and I did for many years, just for the record, it is that people always say that their best idea comes in the shower. It's because they are
Right?
completely unplugged. They are completely not working. They are, and suddenly that peace brings the ideas. So yeah, people need to embrace that more when they're,
Exactly.
especially when they're struggling, thinking like, no, I got to work harder. No, maybe you don't. Maybe you need to step away
Exactly.
and do something else.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Because that, then your brain gets a chance to breathe,
Yes.
and that creative side can come out, and then you may come up with the next, best-selling idea.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. One of my,
yeah,
as you were talking, I was thinking about one of my favorite kind of anecdotal stories is about the iPad. But, granted, Apple had a lot behind it, but, Steve Jobs really believed in this iPad idea. And even in focus groups, people hated it. They were like, I'm not going to carry this around. But now look at it. People can't
yeah,
live without these things. It's like, oh my God, I get to carry it on my computer. This is so awesome. So just because,
yeah,
like you said, just because it hasn't been done, just because, people might think might not want it, you just had a feeling, nope, they're all going to want this. And we're just going to keep figuring out how to basically train them to want this.
yeah,
I mean, I'd say that's all it is, but that is all it is. It's not luck. There's some work behind it. And just, like I said, the problem
absolutely,
solving, just try it again. What didn't they like? Let's tweak it. And,
absolutely,
so
absolutely, and
thank
just go
you
from
so,
there.
so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I will have all the details of how to get in touch with you in the notes to this and when it gets posted. And if you're in the area, definitely, drop by and grab some coffee with or without your dog, I'm sure. But if you have the dog,
Yeah,
even better.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. We'd love to see all of you, and then just mention Catherine's name, and we'll make sure we take extra special care of
Oh,
her.
you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Thanks, Wendy.